I have some really unpopular opinions about weight loss, but they're all based on the things I learned on my 80-pound weight loss journey. Sometimes I'm walking my 6 miles and I'm looking at shorts and I see a lot of weight loss advice, and there's just some stuff that gets said over and over and over again that I totally disagree with based on my own experience. All these things I'm going to list, I have tried before. I have tried to follow the advice and I have failed to lose weight or failed to keep it off. So let's dive into my first really unpopular opinion, which is you shouldn't try to eat clean. I have a couple of issues with this whole idea of clean eating. Now, do I think that you should eat the food that makes you feel the best? Absolutely, I do. But I really take issue with this idea that there's even such a thing as clean eating. I mean, who gets to decide precisely what that means? And if you do say that, then you're also implying that there is a dirty way to eat. It's almost like the people who really advocate for this, it becomes like a religion to them. And I think that's an unhealthy way to approach food, especially to approach the weight loss journey. And one big reason I say that is because there are lots of perfectly valid reasons to eat, and not all of them are for nutrient consumption. If that was the only reason we ate, we would have invented a long time ago a little pill that you pop in the morning and then you don't have to think about food for the rest of the day. There are lots of other reasons we eat. For example, to celebrate somebody or some event. Think about birthdays and weddings. We also use food to comfort us. For example, when people pass away, that's one main thing you do is you gather with the family and you share a meal. And yes, comfort eating, if done habitually, will lead to a weight problem, but eating for comfort every once in a while will not. And here's another thing about this whole clean eating idea. Most people don't really like the foods that are clean, and they really like the foods that are considered not clean. So this leads to an unsustainable kind of situation. I've seen tons of people do this. They'll talk about, I'm going to eat clean, and they'll do it for a little while. And then eventually they go back to eating exactly how they ate. And that can cause additional problems with weight loss because, then you're just eating. Maybe there's actually nothing wrong with what you're eating, but you think that there's something wrong with what you're eating. And so then there's all this guilt and drama around your food, and that can lead to overeating. Unpopular opinion number 2, I don't think you should go low carb. Now look, if you've got a medical condition that makes it so you can't eat carbs or you need to limit carbs, go for it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. But for the vast majority of people out there, they don't have problems with carbs. You can have potatoes, you can eat pasta, you can have bread. Again, I've tried being low carb, but it made me miserable. It made me feel miserable. I could not stick with it for the long term. And I've watched a lot of people around me go low carb and, have some success in the short term, but then in the long run, they all fall off. I can't think of one person actually in my life who I have seen go low carb and stay low carb. What I think is a much better option is to just simply learn how to eat the right amount of food altogether. So if you like a lot of sweet stuff and a lot of high calorie, tasty kind of food, you just have to learn how to eat the right amount. But of course, if you love being low carb, go for it. I have no problem with low carb, but I have an issue with people who try to make it sound like you can't lose weight unless you go low carb. Unpopular opinion number 3 is I don't think you should focus on exercise. Particularly, I don't think you should focus on really high intensity, like focusing on the calorie burn. This was really a mistake I made in 2015. That year, I started going to the gym every single day. I was working out super hard. I was doing CrossFit type workout. I was powerlifting. I was doing all the high intensity stuff that I could. And at the end of that year of doing that, I had lost about 15 pounds total. And in hindsight, I really do see that the problem was I was so focused on this idea, I just need to burn more calories. But here's the thing about burning more calories. When you work out really, really hard, your appetite increases, which means it is much harder to get yourself into a deficit and to stay there. There's this mental thing that happens too, where you feel like, hey, I worked out so hard this morning, surely I can have, 2 or 3 of this thing on my plate. The truth is, you can't outrun your fork. And when I got that through my head, I finally started having good results with weight loss. Now, there are tons of great benefits of exercise. I don't want to downplay those at all. I think it's a great idea that if you can get yourself to exercise, then by all means do so. And especially if you have problems with emotional eating, or if you just find yourself eating out of boredom, it's really good to get yourself into the habit of being active. It helps your mental health, and it also just gives you something physically to go do instead of eat. But if you can't exercise, and there are a lot of reasons, people can't exercise. Maybe they have a schedule that is seriously too packed full to really work it in consistently, or they may have some sort of physical reason, an injury or a disability that makes it almost impossible to exercise. And the thing is, even if that's your situation, you literally cannot exercise, you can still absolutely lose weight. It just goes back to being in a deficit. That's all it takes. Unpopular opinion number 4, you should weigh every day. A lot of people push back on this because they say, well, no, you should just, weigh once a week. Or I've heard some people say once a month, or some people will say you shouldn't weigh at all. You should just try to, measure yourself with a tape. Now, first of all, I measured myself with a tape for like a whole year, and I wasted a lot of time doing that because I just kept, pulling the tape tighter and tighter and lying to myself. The bottom line is, if you are trying to manage your weight, you need to know what you weigh. So the reason why daily weighing, in my opinion, is so much better than weekly or monthly or whenever you feel like it kind of weighing, is that if you do it every day, you get into the habit. It's just part of your life. You get up in the morning, you go to the bathroom, you step on the scale, you see what you weigh. You always know exactly where you're at with your weight. But what I have seen happen in my own life and, in the lives of people that I'm, watching their progress, when you try to just weigh like every week or just maybe every month or so, what happens is they tend to fall off plan, and then it starts to become scary. Like, like I had a couple of days off, and then they don't want to weigh in on the weigh-in day. And so then it gets pushed, and then they keep pushing and pushing. And then before you know it, you've gained all the weight back, and it's just really hard to get started again. So not only do you get into this just habit, and it becomes just this easy thing you do in the morning. On top of that, when you're weighing every day, you see how much your weight fluctuates up and down day to day, which can really help you to understand the weight loss journey. I can't tell you how often I used to think back when I would just weigh kind of sporadically, oh, I gained 5 pounds, or, oh, I've lost a pound, when really those were just normal fluctuations. Quite likely your weight is going to go up a few pounds just over the course of a week, as far as, just daily fluctuations. And also, if you're weighing every day, then you have more data and you can average it. And that's what I like to do. I like to keep a running average, a running 7-day average of my weights, so that I can see how my weight is trending over time. It's still not a perfect line down when I'm trying to lose, and it's certainly not a perfectly straight line when I am maintaining. But overall, you can see the trend, and it's just easier to understand. When you're weighing sporadically, it's really hard to know, well, did you weigh on an abnormally low day that one day, and then an abnormally high day another day? And then that, if that is the case for you, it can be so disheartening. But if you had just been weighing every day, you would have had a much better idea of what was actually going on. Also, weighing every day is super helpful in maintenance, because in maintenance, you're just trying to, kind of stay in a range, and it's very easy once you're done with weight loss to then kind of take your foot off the gas a little too much. And it can be so subtle that unless you are consistently weighing, you can really find yourself in a place where you've gained a lot of the weight back. And lastly, the 5th really unpopular belief that I have is that you should take cheat days. So back in 2016, that's when I decided, okay, I need to write down a plan. And part of this plan is going to be that I take a cheat day every week. And so when I put that into place, I really thought that's probably a bad idea. I had heard a lot of people saying that that's a terrible idea, actually, because you're not going to be consistent, and it's going to put the wrong kind of ideas in your mind, because then you're like cheating. And but if you like to phrase it differently, I think it's a good idea to call it a day off, just a complete day off from exercise, from your weight loss plan, just a day off. And so I have continued to take that from 2016 up until the present day. The thing about a cheat day is, I think it's a way of acknowledging, weight loss and keeping your weight in check it takes effort. It's not that it's hard. It's not hard, but it does require discipline. And when you are being really disciplined, what I have found is that it's really helpful to give yourself breaks from time to time. When I had that plan in place, it made fasting Monday through Saturday seem so much easier because I knew, like, okay, even though, maybe today I really don't feel like fasting, I get the day off on Sunday. I've never taken that away from myself either. I always kept it, even, no matter what my weight was doing, even if I was trying to lose and the scale seemed stuck or anything, I just kept taking it. And it was like this pressure relief valve. It just kept me on track. And so by taking that day off, it ended up making me far more consistent overall, and it made weight loss sustainable. So there you have it, 5 really unpopular opinions that I hold. Now, look, maybe you disagree with me about some of those, and that's totally fine. I'm just telling you what has worked for me and what I believe based on my own experience. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And by the way, I want to take a second to thank all you members out there, whether you're a loyal badger and you want to watch the archived members only content, or all you insiders out there who get access to the weekly live Q&As that I do. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.